We have a vaccine for COVID-19. In this episode, we talk about the vaccine for hate. My name is EJ Carrion. Welcome to This Week in Education, where every Monday morning I highlight innovative trends, topics, and districts in education. As Americans, we're not just enduring a health pandemic, but a racial pandemic, riddled with deadly hate crimes and violence. Responding to the moment, districts across the country are accelerating the implementation of real instruction and conversations that will change their school culture around race, equity, and inclusion. The goal is to build anti-racist school policies and curriculum that are sustainable. Just last week, the California State Board of Education ended its years-long debate on Thursday, becoming the first state to approve a statewide ethnic studies curriculum for high schools. The curriculum will guide how the histories, struggles, and contributions of Asian, Black, Latino, and Native Americans and the racism and marginalization that they have experienced in the United States will be taught to millions of students. Other states have taken different approaches to teaching ethnic studies. Oregon is developing ethnic studies standards for their social studies curriculum, while Connecticut high schools will be required to offer courses in Black and Latino studies by the fall of 2022. The course materials in California's new ethnic curriculum includes 33 lesson plans which schools are not required to use but can pick from to fit their student communities. More than 3/4 of California's 6.2 million K-12 students are non-white. Education is the vaccine to combat the virus of hate. So in this episode, my guest, Luvelle Brown, Superintendent of Ithaca City School Districts in New York, shares with us his experience in prioritizing and implementing an anti-racist, anti-marginalization curriculum for all students pre-K through 12.
Luvelle Brown, and I serve as Superintendent of Schools in the Ithaca City School District in Ithaca, New York. Anti-marginalization curriculum units, they're case studies where young people are working in an interdisciplinary way to solve real-world problems that are relevant to their local communities. And the young people have told us the problems they want to solve are around oppression, racism, classism, sexism. So we built out units of study that allow for young people to do that. We've rethought our classroom and school libraries to make sure we have diverse literature written by Black and Brown authors, featuring Black and Brown people. So everything we're doing to be anti-racist, not just racist. We think about grading practices, we think about our attendance structures. When we look at our data, we've seen disproportionate results. So we are shifting our approaches. How do we grade in a way that's more equitable? How do we grade in a way that's more anti-racist and loving? And we have our educators working each and every day now, thinking through that, which is pushing us to change structures and systems that have been in place for over 100 years. And that's how I work.
Ithaca City School District's anti-marginalization curriculum's learning goals are to help students recognize and respond to the complex issues of identity, diversity, prejudice, and power in learning communities, and be able to articulate how marginalization is constructed at an individual and institutional level. On the district's website, ICSD shares case studies, lesson plans, and resources that are available as guides to districts and educators interested in implementing this kind of work in their schools.
So I know of young people, second and third graders, who are who are having conversations about sexism and how, for example, how our local media subscribes to a gender binary, particularly when they're advertisements for toys. And our young people have created new advertisements that are gender neutral and have sent them in to the media to be printed. We have young people who are looking at our equity policy and also looking at our academic calendar and doing an analysis and showing and revealing to us as a governance team, you have an academic calendar that you've approved that only really represents one culture. How can we create an academic calendar that represents the great diversity that exists in our school district? What days do we have off? When do we come to school? Et cetera. Voting, how do we vote? The history of voting oppression, suppression in our country. What do we do now as young people to advocate for more equitable opportunities for young people and educators and adults to vote? Monuments. So again, when you go onto our website, you can see the range of curriculum that we've built in ways in which we're engaging our young people in these hard conversations.
What I love about these learning opportunities is that they always include taking action and showing students how to activate and be active citizens in democracy. The learning leads to real life examples of how one becomes civically responsible. In Learning My History, a history of learning, students investigate their family values and experiences and the nature of schooling in Tompkins County in 1892 compared to today. In doing so, students develop a sense of self and a relationship to their education. Students will write a letter to the ICSD Board of Education comparing their education to the founding times of their school district. The project allows students to create connection between their family history and their relationship with education while also providing ways for the board to improve.
Student voice and choice at our board meetings. We have young people coming to our board meetings, sitting side by side with us, engaging in conversations about how we can be more inclusive, how we should change policies to be more loving, culturally responsive, anti-racist. So right now, my job is to inspire some young people to take my place when I'm gone, to engage in these hard conversations that, quite frankly, my generation, our generation, shied away from. So that's what it is. We are saying that we want to engineer all of our classrooms and schools and school district to be a place for social justice and social change, and our young people to be empowered to be those agents for social change. So yeah, I know our work is, we're on the right track when our young people are coming and they're engaged and they're walking out, they're protesting, they're speaking to how they don't feel included, and they're offering up suggestions for how we can change our policies and our practices to do just that.
Halfway through the interview, I asked Luvelle a difficult question about the pushback he might get from the community and parents who may not agree or who are ignorant to marginalization in everyday life. We have seen across the country boardrooms being packed with parents asking schools to not talk about race. In Michigan, a father asked another father during a board meeting, "Why don't you just go back to Mexico?"
Because of the abuse that he was enduring in this school system.
Then why did you stay in Mexico?
You need to leave. That is disgusting.
This is not just an isolated incident where there's just one bad apple. In Southlake, Texas, after the district planned to roll out a diversity and inclusion training for all students as a part of their K-12 curriculum, parents who are against the idea quickly raised more than $100,000 from dozens of residents. Luvelle shared with me that we should not avoid resistance, but expect it in this work.
How should I say this? You should expect resistance if you're doing this work. And we all have experienced it. We recently had Black Lives Matter at Schools Week, and we had resistance to that. How, our celebration of Black and brown lives and joy and excellence was met with resistance. But when you know that you will receive resistance, you can plan for it, and then you can be unbothered. We keep moving. We educate the folks who don't understand why we're doing this. We support them on their journeys, but at the same time, we continue to affirm and validate all of our young people, and we continue to educate them about this path that we're going to stay on. Again, that resistance comes in a lot of different forms, and folks need to prepare for it and look for it, because if not seeing it, it's an indication that you're not pushing the work you should be.
Looking at this work long term, success includes seeing the data finally changing that has not in decades around wealth, health, and power, to move in a direction where the American dream is more possible for the overall diversity, which is accelerating in our great nation. The challenge is that the conversation does not start with the curriculum and what we want to teach students, but instead it starts with asking ourselves, what are we willing to give up to create a more equitable union?
The system that we're all attempting to navigate, the system, the housing system, the health systems, the financial systems were never designed for us to achieve, period. They've been designed to be, quite frankly, designed to exclude us from those conversations. And when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about not people who look like me and us. I'm thinking about white folks who say that they want to be a part of anti-racist work, or they want to be, they feel like they're woke and they want to contribute. I always ask them, what privileges are you prepared to give up? If anyone who's engaging in this equity work and anti-racist work must be prepared, including us, to give up privileges. And only then can we engage in that next conversation. As you say, to share that wealth, to share that access is going to push folks to give up privileges. And we need folks to give up privileges in order for us to have young people who look like me have equal access to the American dream. So I think the conversation needs to stay there first, just in the self-reflection mode, because only when folks determine and decide that they are willing to give up privileges, then we can engage in the intellectual friction and conflict. when we come to conversations about, okay, what will that look like in practice? What will it look like to change our policies to allow for equal access? What will it look like to change a law that we know has oppressed and marginalized for generations, while at the same time allowing for others to achieve the American dream?
A link to Ithaca City School District's anti-marginalization curriculum is in the description below. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Thank you for watching This Week in Education. In the meantime, keep changing the world.